Right, welcome everybody that is joining us. I'm going to interview Ragna Gonzalez. Welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good right now. How about you?
I'm good. Had a weird couple of weeks of work. Um, don't want to alarm anyone, but I might be losing my job. I don't know yet, but that's a whole nother situation for another day. But I'm just keeping it positive right now. And I tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna let the Lord take care of that, and that's it. Like I'm just not gonna worry about everything right now. But other than that, I'm okay. Taking it day by day. So I
Sounds good.
can do.
Sounds good. Yeah, I hear that.
Oh man. So as far as poetry, art, creativity, how did this all start for you?
Whew. Okay, we got to go way back then because art started for me probably in the third grade when I wanted to learn how to draw, and my best friend and I would just practice doing different things here and there, little sketches turning into like our own comic strips and whatnot. We first started like learning how to draw specific Pokemon, and then branched out to like learning how to draw aliens, and it went even further, into us learning how to draw manga and even like try to write our own mangas when we were young. So it was just like some fun and interesting topics that we wanted to get into. But the poetry scene for me, honestly started when I was in middle school. I actually had my first chapbook published by the middle school when I was in eighth grade. So that's what really sparked everything for me. It was a creative writing class that I had started taking when I was in eighth grade, and it really made me want to learn how to express myself through word, especially back then when it was difficult for me to express things, by speech. And being able to put my words, in writing and be able to, describe to someone exactly how I'm feeling, it meant so much to me, and it helped me to better express myself and learn how to develop, the correct and proper speech to communicate with other people, especially being an autistic person.
Mm, mm. Oh, no, and that's awesome. Because my son has autistic spectrum disorder, so I when you say that, it really hits me. It kind of strikes a nerve in me a little bit in a way, like, oh, okay, like not. It's like I feel like life happens for a reason, where like people like yourself that tells me your story is like, okay, this is giving me perspective now. So I love that. So you mentioned about the comic, you mentioned about the manga and the Pokemon and the alien. Like, what was? Because I've seen manga, so I noticed the manga is like backwards, right? It's from back to front, not the other way, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you read from back to front, you read from right to left.
Okay. So what was it about the manga and you trying to learn that fascinated you?
It was mainly like the comic strip process and just having like thoughts and ideas and just wanting to be creative, wanting to come up with my own storyline behind these characters that, we started drawing, and even, wanting to animate those scenes, and, being able to learn, the manga process, and, how to block out a page in order to fit all of the correct scenes and the dialogue in, took a lot of time to learn, but it was very fun for me, and it just allowed me to show my creativity, in ways that I wasn't able to do so.
Okay, because I don't know too much about manga. I know a little bit about comics, so I'm just curious. So, what would you say is the major difference, other than like from left to right, right to left, and all that? Like, what's the major difference as far as in a comic in opposed to a manga? That's a very interesting thing.
It's definitely similar in terms of how it's created. It's you're essentially blocking out a page and trying to fit multiple scenes in to tell a story. And a lot of comics were inspired by manga writing processes. So, the comic books that you see today, American comic books, stuff from the Silver Age, going all the way back, up until now, as of recent, with the new comics that we have out, it definitely shows like a type of evolution with the artwork and how things are able to be portrayed. One thing I did really enjoy about classic manga is the way that the scenes are blocked out, and how most of the pages still have like a generic border around them, and in those borders they would have certain types of dialogue, or introspect into the scene, or even like little tiny snippets to show exactly what's going on, or just to add perspective, or let you know exactly what's happening in the background of the scene. And those are the things that I really enjoyed, because if you weren't watching a TV show, you may not be able to see or know what's happening in the background, but them giving you those little insights in the borders really, was good for me, and it made me happy to be able to read those things.
Okay. No, that's dope. That is dope. So in the manga, because I have a lot of manga questions here. So as far as the process, let's say for someone that doesn't know what manga is and what a comic is, um, I would assume too, like the major difference too is also like how many pages. Is it always gonna be like that many pages as far as like how big the book is and stuff like that, or can a manga be any amount of pages, or it has to, or is there like a particular format that falls under? Like, I'm just curious to know how that looks like.
Yeah, because typical mangas are usually anywhere from like 4x7 to 5x7 in size. So it's definitely a lot smaller. So it's going to be thicker because you're going to try and fit, the same amount of content that would normally fit in a comic book, you're trying to fit in the manga as well. So one volume is usually going to have, twice the amount of pages and be twice the thickness of a normal comic that you would see.
Mm, okay, yo, that's dope. That is dope. So I'm gonna switch gears to the poetry aspect of it. So, you said how the poetry gave you the ability to express yourself in ways that you weren't able to do so before. And that way, I kind of relate to you too, because I was sheltered growing up, so I wasn't allowed to talk about certain things. So I kind of have to just, you know, keep it in the writing or just keep it to myself type of thing. And you also mentioned about the chat book you wrote from the school. Like, talk to me about that. Like, how did it make you feel to have that published and to even be, given the opportunity to create the chat book? Like, talk to me about that whole thing, because that's very interesting as well.
Okay, so that was a creative art project for our creative writing class that we had, where essentially we had to create a chat book that was anywhere between 15 and 25 pages long, with a poem on each page. And then we also had to draw the artwork for our own cover if possible, or if not, then just, put a generic title on the cover. So I wish that I had access to all of that, that poetry that I had written back then, because I honestly don't remember a lot of it. Eighth grade was a very long time ago for me. But I had reached out to the school district to see if they would be able to like retrieve any copies of the chapbook that I had, because they did publish it for me back then. But they said that they were not able to recover anything, and they also said that majority of the material in the library was damaged due to a water leak. This was at Northeast Middle School before they tore it down, so I don't know if I'm ever able to retrieve a copy of that, but there's a lot of stuff that I somewhat remember from that chapbook that inspired pieces, that I wrote today. It also, reminds me of, where I came from, and how I was able to evolve from, being the introverted, non-communicative person to, being an outgoing, extrovert, being able to talk to people, being able to express myself, being able to check in on people, see how they're doing. I'm able to communicate so much more than now that I was able to in the past. And it really shows, like, it really shows for me today. I've no idea how to describe that, but it,
No,
it really is great.
beautiful. No, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that so much. So, talk to me about that feeling, knowing that it feels good to reach out to people and talk to people. And you talked about the evolution process behind it, which I love that you said that, because can you describe to me the first exact, maybe not the exact moment, but can you describe to me the moment where, let's say this was the shell, when you felt yourself breaking out of that shell to, oh, wait, I'm getting out of my comfort zone? Like, can you describe that? Because that's pretty interesting that you said all that too.
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely much more introverted when I was younger. I really didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to reach out to other people, how to communicate, how to see, what common interests that we had to, try and make friendships with other people. So I kind of really kept to myself for the most part, growing up. I had one best friend who still lives with me to this day, and we've been best friends since uh, the second grade, so it's almost been my entire life. And that's the one person that I know that I can always truly relate to and be able to understand me. But aside from that, growing up, I really did not have much other people to communicate with. It was just my brother and my best friend for the most part. And there were times where I would try to make friends with other people. I would try to make conversation. It was just so awkward for me. I always felt like I was struggling, or I was, putting in more effort than I was getting out of it. And I wouldn't be able to say the right things, and people would just call me weird or stupid, and that's how it was growing up as a kid. If people didn't understand you or didn't understand, where you're coming from, then they're gonna look at you like you're weird or that you're different, and different is wrong. I was just a different person. But that
Mm,
different in that obscureness of myself is what grew into what I am today.
wow. No, and that is wow. No, because see, I feel like I'm. Oh my goodness. And you know what it is too, because like everything you're saying, I relate to you in that aspect too. Like I try to be myself around people, and it seems as if it didn't fit up to their needs or their what they thought a person should be like, then it's like, yeah, I was labeled weird or I was bullied and people made fun of me, and I understand that because it's hard when you just want to be yourself and then the surroundings we're surrounded with, because I'm Puerto Rican, so I grew up in a Puerto Rican household where like my emotions were not allowed and certain things we had to keep it like in the hush hush, and I had to really just pretty much suppress my feelings in a way, and it's just like that feeling of not being like not having a sense of belonging anywhere. It's that struggle is real, and I feel like it's not talked about enough, and I again, I'm so much respect for you for that because like you were able to overcome all those things to be the person you are today. And again, I so much respect for you. Um, wow. I'm a little like speechless because like I really feel like you're speaking to me like no, I like my younger self is talking to me, and it's like yes, I get it because I always felt like my childhood was blurry, and then I saw like this reel that said, well, it's not that you don't remember, it's just because you've been so hurt a lot that it just stays in the back burner. So it's not that you really forget, you just don't remember. It seems like you don't remember, but it's really because of the hurt and everything you've been through. It's just been suppressed, and to just kind of break out of that, that is amazing. Um, so at what moment did you feel that, okay, here, I found my voice?
So that is something I did want to talk about as well, because there's a lot of things that I could relate with what you just said. I was also raised in a Puerto Rican household, and I was made to believe that any negative feelings, or any feelings of being sad or depressed, or those weren't real feelings. You could just stop feeling those. Oh, you're depressed, don't be depressed anymore. Oh, you feel sad, don't feel sad. Do something. You feel sad is because you're bored. If you're bored, you need to find something to do. It was either something like that, and it was really hard for me to communicate with my parents growing up, because it was really hard for me to express myself. And when I did try to express myself, maybe I didn't say the right thing and I'd get in trouble for it. And there's evolution with that as well, that I'd like to speak about. But growing up and being in that type of household where even when it comes to mental illness, it's something that was shunned. Being mentally ill wasn't something that people wanted to speak about, and they wanted to essentially just try to cover it up, bottle it up, make it go away. And I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 7 years old, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 12 years old. And during that time frame, I'd like to say my parents wanted to reject those diagnoses, and they believed that I was just a normal child, and that I was hyperactive, and that I just needed some medication to calm me down.
Mm,
And
mm, wow. Okay, give me a second. I'm sorry, because oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, wow. Wow. No, again, I relate to you because that's kind of how it was for me. You know what it is? Like, I knew, like, I don't want to say I remember, like, I understand what I went through. I just didn't know how to explain it. So the way you broke that down was exactly what that is, because that's really what it is. Yeah, my father, I mean, See, because the thing with my dad, he was born in the island, so he didn't really understand. And my mom was like a submissive wife, so she had to just like, oh, whatever my husband goes, that's it, right? And die, even if he's wrong. What you said just now really like, wow, because that's exactly what it is, especially in a Hispanic household like that, because it was always, oh, it's a novela, that's not real and stuff like that. And it's, oh, that's just stuff you see on TV. And I'm like, no, it's not, but that's a real thing. Because, with me, I grew up in the 80s, but going to early 90s. And I remember when they were first bringing that awareness, but we just, like you said, we weren't allowed to talk about it. And the fact that we get to talk about it now, that's great. Um, but what you said, that really just, wow, wow. Yeah, I agree with Magnus. Yeah, preach. Because for real, Robert Kazi, what's going on, my friend? But yeah, it's oh man, give me a sec. I'm sorry, because that really just and again, so much respect for you for that because yeah, I just feel like it's not talked about enough. Oh my goodness. But yeah, like I said, you could talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. This is your time, and I want you to know that speak your mind because it's so true what you said. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
in terms of
mm,
finding my voice, that was something that I feel definitely happened when I was in high school. Being able to, meet up with new people, especially more introverts or people who are neurospicy or neurodivergent like myself, that I was able to relate more to, definitely helped me to open up more. It helped me to be able to express myself more. Around that same time frame, I also had ended up moving in with my dad by myself because my family had essentially separated during that time. So, my parents had broken up. My brother had gone off to live in residential living, and my sister had gone to live with my mom. So I was living alone with my dad, and honestly, being alone with my dad, it was hard living with him because it was very strict, and it was his house, his rules, and it was still a religious household, so there were so many things that I wasn't able to speak about. There was the talk of homophobia. There was the talk of being religious, not watching movies or shows that had anything to do with profanity, or had anything to deal with like the devil or Satan or any type of like devilish ideal, ideals, all those types of things, and that's something that definitely changed over time. The relationship that I have with my dad now compared to what I had in the past is black and white. My father is so understanding of me. He has opened up, he has evolved, he has changed so much about himself, that he had done in the past, or, had experienced in the past because of, how he was raised, to believe that these things are bad, and I'm so glad to be able to have someone in my life now that supports me and is very understanding of me. I identify as non-binary, my pronouns are they, them, you know, bringing that up with my dad, that was back in 2019, and it was the hardest thing that I thought I would ever have to do in my life. And for him to just be completely understanding of it and to accept me, where, if I had done the same thing a couple of years ago, he probably, would have called me gay, or, said that I loved men, and that, I was listening to the devil, and that, I had to find some way to heal myself, and that I needed to go to church, and
wow.
that's a complete day and night for me, living through that and growing up with it, and just with time, and growth, it's not just myself, it's the people around me, it's my family, that have been able to grow and evolve and to understand me and to be accepting and to, not look at things automatically like they're just bad just because you've read about it in a book.
Mm, oh my God. I wow. I really feel like I'm talking to my old, like a younger version of myself. That's really how I feel right now because you are hitting the right notes right now, and that is wow. Because the way you're expressing it, again, that is, I never knew how to express it that way. The way you just, that's what it is, and yeah, I think with me, because so I became a born again Christian in 2013. My father was like straight up Catholic, like, oh no, like you said, everything you just said, that's exactly what it was. Oh, God's gonna punish you. That's why I never really, like, it was like whatever, I had to just go to church because that's what it was. But once I went on my own kind of thing, I found my own thing. But But I do say, yeah, like in the last 5 years he was alive, I feel like my relationship with my dad got better because it wasn't the best, wasn't the greatest relationship. But little by little, he did get like that in the last 5 years of while he was alive, and the whole understanding, wanting to listen. And for people in that time frame, because my father was a 1950s Puerto Rican, so with him, it's just like you said, their culture was
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
different then. And for to have any kind of change to me, that's like, oh snap, like wow, you know what I'm saying? Like that speaks in volumes because people from that time, they don't always. It's more like my way and the highway, and that's it. So to be able to break out of that is wow, because it is it's difficult. It really is, you know. So when your relationship with your father started to become a greater thing, can you describe that feeling? How did that finally make you feel finally when you were able to communicate? Like tell me that breakthrough.
So yeah, growing up, when I was in high school, that was when I was able to learn how to express myself more. But like I said, even back then, the issues that I mainly had was the fear of you know understanding and realizing how I identified, in terms of my sexuality and as an individual. And growing up in that sort of household, it was really hard for me to express those things because I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know how to identify myself to begin with. I wasn't sure of the feelings that I was feeling. Um, and even if I did know, I was afraid to speak them because like I said, I didn't know what type of reaction I was going to get out of it. And being older now and, not living with my father anymore, but even though we don't live together, we were able to build up our relationship and spend more time together. I spend time with my father every week. He comes over and he hangs out with me and my roommates, or we go out and do things every now and then. We try to spend as much time together as we possibly can, you know, but it wasn't always like that, and I'm glad that it is now. I'm glad that, I was able to open up to him and communicate to him exactly, how I feel, the way that I identify, and that he was so understanding of that, and that I didn't have to worry about losing someone so close to me because they would rejected the way that I identified as an individual. That was always something that was a really great fear of mine, but I'm glad that
No,
things worked out the way they did.
yeah, no, that makes sense what you said. And I wanted to ask, as far as like the language, y'all both spoke English, or is it Spanish, English? Like, how did that? Because I know for me, I think the unfortunate biggest part of my communication with him is my Spanish is kind of broken. So I feel like I know what I'm trying to say, but it came off as something else, and that's why the communication wasn't always a thing. If that makes sense, I feel like that was the barrier between me and my dad, was always that language. Was it the same way like that as far as in that aspect, or no?
I would say definitely so growing up. My dad worked the majority of the time, so I didn't really get a lot of chance to spend time with him when I was younger growing up. It was mostly, my mom raised us, and my mom really didn't raise us. My mom didn't do much of anything in the growth of my life, and she's no longer a part of my life, not just for that reason, but for many reasons. But there was always resentment between my parents because my mother always spoke to us in English while we were growing up, and my father wanted us to learn Spanish. So during the time that my dad would be home, it would always be, he'd speak to me in Spanish and try to tell me Spanish things. And if I didn't understand, then I would get punished for it. So it was that type of mentality, like where I'm supposed to know, like, oh, I should know this. Your parents are Puerto Rican, you should know Spanish. And it was just like I was raised in an American elementary school, so I'm going to know English, and my mom speaks to me in English. And, when you're home, you do speak to me in Spanish, but it's not enough for me to learn and realize and understand without the fear of being punished for not, knowing what you're saying. And that was always tough for me. And I always wanted to like learn more Spanish. I even took Spanish in school because of those reasons. Whereas, I wanted to take other languages. Eventually I did branch out, into wanting to learn more languages, but speaking Spanish, and, being an American Puerto Rican, it was always something that was tough for me, especially with the way that I was raised, and I have other Puerto Rican friends who, were raised in the same time period as me, and they can speak fluent Spanish. I'm able to speak Spanish. I don't do so fluently. I don't like to speak Spanish, but I do when I need to.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way too. I hate translating at work. I really do. I hate translating. I hate talk. I mean, I have to talk to my mom in Spanish, unfortunately, but or anyone that doesn't speak English, I have to talk to them in Spanish. But I'm the same way, and I know what you mean about the whole like you should just know, like I'm not a mind reader type situation because that's how my dad was too. Not with Spat, but he was just like that with other stuff. Oh well, you know, you're already 18 years old. You should know what I'm talking about. Even though I don't know what you're talking about, and it was always that as well, that expectation. If I didn't live up to that, then it's like, oh no, then you're doing a bad thing. I'm like, no, it's just I really don't understand. And then if I try to respond, it was like, oh, I wouldn't dare talk to my parents like that. I'm like, that's not what I'm doing here. But yeah, no, but it's interesting though, for real. So I want to go back into the poetry aspect. Ask you to read a piece so we can give the audience an example of how you write.
Yeah, definitely. I actually wrote a piece a couple of hours ago that I wanted to speak about. I don't have a title for it yet, but it is a small little piece that I'd wanted to perform. So let me see if I can find it here. All right, here we go. My seed of innocence started young, planted with the intention of becoming someone, germinated with the moist, dark places of my life, sprouting roots too thick to be cut with knives. It pierces the ground and reaches for the sky, reaching a whole 3 inches before succumbing to lies. Lies that bring confusion, anger, and mourning. Lies that try to condition me into something that isn't beautiful, red, blossoming with thorns that sting. But fuck your conditioning, it's not working. These thorns have created seams, openings into my body to enter my bloodstream. Chlorophyll fills me, and I take in the sun as I demand to not identify as a sun. As a rose, I stand tall, with makeup, with colored nails, with clothing built for all.
Mm, mm, wow, wow. I love that. The conditions, yeah, like we are conditioned to think a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way. The seed of innocence too. That those lines definitely spoke to me. Talk to me about the seed of innocence though, right? Because I feel like we have these innocent things in us, but then something happens, like a seed of how do you call that? Like toxicity, right? So now they throw things at us, and then it's like, oh wait, but my innocence was robbed. At least that's how I felt. Like, because I was exposed to things I didn't really understand, and nobody really sat down with me and explained it to them, so I had to just go through it on my own. Talk to me about that, because that is wow, I love that.
For me, I definitely believe that it's growing up and not being able to understand at a young age the things that are toxic to you, and the things that are going to benefit you, because you still need the experience to understand those things. And it's not just about those, it's about what is fed into you, as you're growing, as you're sprouting, the type of environment that you're in, the type of training and the education that you're given, the type of discipline that you're given, whether it's going to lead to you becoming a good person, what you consider to be morally good, as an individual. And, as a seed, you germinate, you sprout, you grow, and what you're fed is going to determine what you bloom into. And whether or not you determine that you're gonna grow, you're gonna bloom, you're gonna be beautiful, you're gonna shine, you're gonna smell great, or whether you're gonna sink low to the ground and spread out and tangle other things inside of your vines and suffocate and choke them to benefit yourself.
Mm, mm, wow, wow. Yeah, I'm just trying to process all this because this is wow. Whew, as my heart is like this right now because it's like, oh shit, like wow, oh my god. So talk to me about the discipline part of that, of what you said, because that is also interesting. How does discipline look for you now, in opposed to, like, do you see it as something like it's a scary thing because people discipline me a certain way, or do you see discipline as something like, okay, no, I'm disciplining myself to be better or to do this or to do that? Like, how does that look for you?
Discipline for me when I was young was definitely something that I saw as toxic, especially with, growing up and living in households, that came from physical abuse. I never believed in physical abuse as a way to dish out discipline, because what does it teach, other than physical pain and hurt and trauma? I learned that communicating is definitely the way to go. Being able to speak your mind, without any filter, describe yourself, is the way to go. And now the way that I look at discipline is I look at it as a way, of constructive criticism, as ways to improve myself, whether it be goals that I set for myself or boundaries that I set, whether for my own personal health or for the health of those around me. I'm an individual that lives my life, but there are others around me who are living the same exact, way that I am. They're living their lives. They need to be able to survive. And if there's any way that I can support them, and it means that I can discipline myself in a way to make our living more, easy, in a mutual way, that I'm going to do so. And that wasn't always easy for me growing up. I kept to myself. So I will say, growing up, I was probably a selfish individual. I did what I could for myself because I didn't know any better. I didn't know how else to, use friendship and family as a resource to better my life, because all I wanted to do was keep to myself. But now that I have that ability to be, extroverted, to be able to reach out, to express myself, to make friends, to show understanding, to be able to empathize with other people, that's helped me to become the person that I am today.
Mm. So as far as the giving back aspect, okay, this is what I went through. I want to give back to others that are less fortunate than I am. I want to give back to, like, okay, I know there's somebody else in the same situation or similar than of mine, just like how I went through it. So how important is that for you? I know we talked about the importance of it, but how is the importance for you? Like, how does that look like for you? How important is it, and why is it so important for
I do think that it's very important to me. If there's anything that I'm able to just bestow upon another person, whether it be knowledge, education, training, or even skill, and it's something that I know that it can improve their lives or even make them happy because it's something that they want to learn, then I'm going to go ahead and do that to the best of my ability. If someone wants to learn how to draw and they're asking me to teach them, I'm going to try to do my best to show them, the skills that I have to help them improve themselves. The same way when it comes to writing, if there's someone who wants advice on how to write something, and they're stuck, they have a writer's block, or they have no way to express themselves, or they're looking for new ways to express themselves, I will brainstorm with them to help them to be able to express those words. And the same thing when it comes to the experience of the past. There are things that I experienced and I may have gone through that could have been traumatizing to me, and if I'm able to share those experiences with someone else and to help them to avoid those issues or those problems in the future, then I'm definitely going to do so, whether or not it benefits me or not.
you? Mm. And walk me, okay, because this is really really good. I love this. So because I know at times in doing so, I know at times it can get very uncomfortable as well. I know for me, even though like when I help people, sometimes it does get uncomfortable. For me, in a sense, like, okay, I need to, but I think uncomfortability is a good thing because how do I explain it? Like, it will teach me something about myself. So in that same aspect, like, how does that exact thing look for you?
Um, the way that I always like to look at it is uncomfortability helps me to peel away the layers of myself that I wouldn't be able to peel away otherwise.
Mm, okay, wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. All right, hold on. You gotta give me a second because I'm trying to, oh man, I'm like learning so much about myself. It's not even funny right now. Like, wow. Whoo, okay. 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 Oh my God, wow. Again, this puts a smile on my face because again, I'm learning from you, and you're teaching me right now, so I love this. So okay, all right, I can do this. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna ask. for you to read another piece, and we can talk about that as well.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I can pull something else up here.
Oh man, for those who's just joining in or you're watching the replay, this is right. Like this is amazing. Like wow. Oh man. Whew. Yeah. I'm gonna just read the comments. Love the growing pops. It really speaks to how much they love you. Yeah, I agree with Robert Kazi when it comes to that. I feel like you've gone through levels of opening up as time process. Yeah, and you know what's funny though, Magnus? It's not easy too, right? Because and Ragna just said it, the uncomfortableness behind it, but I know it's needed, right? Because to get out of your comfort zone, to step into something you don't know rather than staying to what you already know is so hard. I know for me, I struggled with that for years, you know, because I was always the kind of person that even though I love the idea of having friends and talking to people, but then there was also that other part of me that was so uncomfortable. Oh no, but to maintain that relationship was so hard. Sometimes I would burn the bridges on purpose because of how uncomfortable that made me. And little by little, I've learned, well, no, it's not about you all the time. It's about how others can learn from your story. And I think that's important because, you know, sometimes it's like you said, and I agree, we don't know who needs to hear this conversation, whether you're watching it live or watching the replay. And because again, this is why I do what I do here, because I know there's stories that need to be told, and this is conversations that need to be had, just for the fact that you don't know who needs to hear this right now. They're probably thinking like, damn, you know, and then they see this conversation, they're like, wow, you know what? That makes me feel like I'm not alone. So this is important. So I love how you express so many things today in this live. Again, thank you and so much respect for you for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. All right, so this next piece that I have here, it's called King of the Pirates. I wrote this a while back and I started adding a little bit more to it. I'm probably going to add, a couple of more bars to it over time. Maybe I'll turn it into something big. All right. Board my ship, damn you thick. Hoping this sway don't make you sick. Sick, sick, my deck is slick. Mop 3 times because my fit got drip. I see you got gold for a quick and safe passage. I see you got luggage and girl, it's massive, massive baggage. Come check out my cabin. Bed's real high and my sheets are valid. You asked for consent, then you grabbed it. Snail trails and Mary's hailed, pulsating waves as my ship sails. Mast one tall, now sunken like an anchor. As I slip out the cave, I thank her. Thank her for the storm. Thank her for the typhoon. Thank her for the waves just like she's the moon. Those waves that put shame to a monsoon. Thankful for the way she bounced to the tune. Tune, tune. Got me like a loon. Room spinning, your loom spinning. Weave me up and coat me with grease. Waterproof, but my barrel leaks. On your devil's food, I will gladly feast.
Yeah. Oh my God! Wow. Yeah, yeah, I know somebody's gonna say it on here soon, but yeah, I'm having the only PoetryGasm right now. Yo, wow, wow. Oh shit. Yo. Oh my God. Come on, Magnus. I know you wanna put the word there somewhere. Wow. Wow. Yo, yeah, talk to me about that piece because that was wow. I love the I felt that. You know what I feel like? I feel like I was also listening to a early 90s like the early 90s rap hip hop scene. Like that's what it took me back to. Like that song like the song Don't Just Sip, Just Bust the Move. That's like I came from that time. Like it's so authentic like that. That's what it took me back to. I felt like I was watching one of those like, oh okay, here we go. We gonna do this. It was indeed PoetryGasm. Yeah, see there we go. There it goes. Wait for that word right there. And there goes my wife stalking me. Hi babe. Yeah, I'm out here blushing. Yeah, I'm just like, wow. Yo, I wish I could write shit like that. Like, I wish I could do that. I suck at rhyming. I can't, like, for the life of me. I love that. So talk to me about that piece, because that was, wow, that was dope.
So that was inspired by this anime that I watched called One Piece. I originally started reading it as a manga, but it's one of the longest ongoing shonen animes out right now. And it was essentially, writing from the perspective of being a pirate and wanting to, invite someone into my bedroom, with consent to do the things that we would do that, put the motion in the ocean.
Mm, It can be taught. Yeah, okay. When I come to PA, you guys are gonna have to. You people gotta have to just. Um. Oh my God, I'm okay. I'm flustered now because I'm just so flabbergasted by the piece. I'm like, I can't even think straight. Oh my God, you're gonna have to teach me. You're gonna have to teach me how to write like that, because that is, that and surrealism. I could never write like that. I know people who write in that way, surrealism, and I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I could write like that. Like, that is, oh man, wow, wow. Oh, okay. You gotta give me another. You gotta give me another piece. You gotta give me another piece, because this was, wow. Like, wow.
All right, so I do have one that I just recently wrote. I had performed this piece last Saturday at Nowhere is Promised. It's definitely something that I'm going to try to turn into a full track. So I'm going to definitely be working on more lyrics for it. So this is like, spoken word, a little bit of hip hop in there, and it's just inspired, by something in the past, my past jobs and, the shenanigans that I would get into. But this one is called Benjamin Franklin. And
Mm,
it's essentially it's called Benjamin Franklin because it's supposed to be a play on the name Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin referring to the vape pens that people smoke, and Franklin referring to getting paid while you smoke.
okay.
All right, here we go. Say something so the seer's eye satisfied. Something shades of soothing nothings that we set aside. Set aside the strong morals that ourselves abide. A soul secretes sins of pleasure to a voice in crime. If you do the crime, you know you're gonna do the time, but time stops becoming a punishment when you're high. Just a little high, and I say a little by, cause little's not enough, I gotta reach the fucking sky. I hit the Benjamin a few times while I'm on the slide, now I'm coming out the bathroom like I had a cry. Oh shit, my boss was waiting just aside. A blinker with no stinker, heard that button down the 4 to 5 seconds. Try to exhale with a coughing like you're fucking fire. It was something in my eye, maybe eyelashes and condescending nuclei. No, really, I am just fine. Matter of fact, I'm not alive. You should just let me go home on the company's time. Yeah, yeah, getting paid to just get high. So say something, something at all, because silence speaks volumes and it's bouncing off these walls. So say something, something at all. I swear I wasn't smoking unless you want to hit this, boss.
Mm, Yo, okay, that's it. You know what? Oh my God. I used to say this to my friend Rainier, and he would be like, "Oh, come on, Andy, we talked about this." I said, "No." So I'm gonna say it. So Rainier, I'm sorry, but yeah, I think I retire poetry after this, because that was, wow. 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 Yeah, I love that. Like, the flow is just, wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. I love that. I love that so much. Wow. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, again, I wish I could write like that. I wish I could do shit like that. That is, wow. Mm, Come on, guys. Oh man. Wow.
Thank you, thank you.
That is, wow. Wow. Yeah, I think I officially retire. I don't have a flag, but I got the white flag and just surrender. Oh my goodness. Uh
Usually it's just a spark of inspiration, if it's something that pops up in my head, whether it's a few words or just a rhyme and, it just expands from there. I try to blossom it out into something, that I feel like expresses me, and sometimes I like to throw a little bit of comedy into it, make people laugh a little bit, try to be cheerful about my work.
yeah. No, that, wow. And okay, so I do want to ask you, do you describe yourself in your poetry in a certain style? Like, do you consider yourself to fall under a genre, or are you Not like that. How does that like? How was that for you? I know some people they say, oh, they only write satire, they only write surrealism, they only write love poems or whatever. Like, what about for you? What does that look like for you? Do you consider yourself in part of a genre, or you're just like everywhere? Like, talk to me about that.
I feel like I have more of a freestyle approach. I write about anything and everything that I could possibly think about, whether it's about something that I like, whether it's about something that I want to write about, to show and to rhyme, whether it's something that's inspired me or something that has shown my growth as an individual, even if it's something that's just funny, whether it's a poetry prompt that, I found and wanted to try and expand more on, or even if it's just writing about a situation in my life or an experience that I had. I try to write about anything, and sometimes I'll throw rhymes, and rhythm into it. Maybe turn it a little bit spoken word. Maybe sometimes, a little bit of rap and hip hop in there. And sometimes I will speak, and I won't necessarily say scream, but maybe yell my words to express myself, and emphasize specific words in a stanza to show my feeling. And sometimes I'll recite a poem and I'll be very quiet about it. Some people say that I can go from being soft spoken, to being a whole voice experience, and I don't understand that, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And when you come up with like, okay, hey, I'm gonna write a piece, or I'm gonna get inspired. Like, it just comes out like that, or does something have to trigger you to like? So how does that look like for you? Like when you write your poetry, you write your pieces, it just comes out like that, or you just come up with it on the fly?
Yeah, I just come out with it on the fly, like the piece that I had wrote. That I first performed. I wrote that, I want to say, maybe like an hour and a half ago.
Mm.
And it was just a few words that had popped up in my head, and I wanted to look for rhyme and rhythm and a way to express myself, with those words, and I essentially just branched it out and looked for similar topics, and words that I could rhyme together, and I just wrote how I felt.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Wow. 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 No, thank you for that. Wow. Okay. Okay. Because again, I'm just absorbing everything. And again, I'm learning so much right now tonight. It is incredible. Because so we are almost towards the end, and I always ask this to everybody. So when people hear your name, Ragna Gonzalez, what do you want to be remembered for? What impact would you like to leave behind? Like what is that? What does that look like for you?
What I want to leave behind is just, a feeling of positivity and happiness. I want, when someone speaks my name, to say, oh, that person helped me, whether in a way of physically helping them, emotionally helping them, or, even sharing an experience with myself, or even with my words and writing, to help them to better understand themselves. That's what truly matters to me. I want people to think of my name and think that I help them in some sort of way to better their lives, or just to even, get past something, or, heal from things that they've experienced, and that they wanted to get past. Maybe I've experienced those same things, and I have something that I can say or do, or speak to, help them, get through those times. I just want to be known as that person that helped. And that's all that really matters to me. As long as I can contribute and make the world a better place, even if it's in the smallest way, that's something that I'd like to do.
Mm, mm, yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. And I definitely agree with you on that, on everything you just said, because yeah, just that little bit of difference makes a big difference in my opinion. And then, so you did mention about healing. How important is healing to you, right? I say this because I know sometimes there's a right way and a wrong way to heal. So I wanted to ask you, how important is healing for you, to you, or like however, how does that look like for you?
Healing is definitely something that's very important to me, and I know me as a person, healing can be hard, because there are times where you're feeling these feelings, and you will, do anything that you possibly can to not feel them, whether you brush them off, or, you spend your time and you fill up your time with all these things that you can try to do to not keep yourself from feeling the feelings that you are. And, it's coming to acceptance with those feelings, thinking about, what they've done, how they've affected your life, how they're going to affect your life in the future, and what you are going to do as a person to, either get past those feelings or learn from them. And that wasn't something that I was always able to do, growing up. But now that I'm older and I'm more experienced, and I've experienced trauma and happiness and loss in so many different kinds of ways. I know what is truly important to me. I know what, in my personal opinion, is worth putting my feelings and my thoughts and my emotions into, and spending the time to try and understand those things, as well as what isn't worth it to me at this point in my life. And I feel like those things and the experiences that I had has definitely helped me to learn how to heal as an individual, and not just sweep things under the rug, because I was definitely known to do those things in the past. And I'm glad that I don't have to feel those ways anymore, and I'm in an environment where I'm able to express myself without being judged. And that's something that I will never take for granted.
Mm, amen to that. Yeah. I mean, and again, like I definitely relate to you because I've been there too. The suppression. Oh my God, I can't say the word. Suppression of emotions and feelings, and not being able to express and to break out of that. It is a very, very powerful thing. And like I've always tell people this, that's actually a part of the reason why I created this platform in the first place, is so we can have this to me is intimacy. Honestly, it's not just a platform, it's more than that. And it's again, it's important. And again, because I never had it, so I say, you know what, but if I can give that back somehow to someone that wasn't being able to give it, to be given to, then I feel like I've accomplished a great thing. So usually I would just end with this question, right? But then as you're telling me this, another question sparked and it kind of inspired me. And so this is something new. I've never asked this question. So with anyone, so you'll be the first person um that I asked this question to. And I think it's a great reflection of life. If you could, okay, if you could go back in time as who you are today and meet up with your younger self, what can you tell your younger self? Like, what advice? What would you say? Like what would that look like for you?
I would tell myself that it's okay for me to feel the feelings that I have been feeling during that time. I would tell myself that it's okay for me to express those feelings. It's okay for me to show them, that that is what's going to help me grow. It's what's going to help me understand. It's what's going to help me, proceed and pursue a better future for myself. I'm going to tell myself that, the things that are going to happen in my life are going to happen, whether they be canonical events or not, and that it's okay for me to experience the grief that I will experience with the loss of, whether it be a person, an emotion, or a relationship. And that as long as I do what I believe is right, and as long as I pursue the motivations and ambitions that inspire me, then I will be the great person that I am today.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. And that, yeah. Oh man, yeah, don't mind me again. I'm just absorbing everything. So Ragna, thank you so much for doing this interview. Thank you for just being your realest self and just being vulnerable with us and just sharing your story. I know some people are like, oh, it's just a thing. No, it's not just a thing. Your story matters. This is important because again, we don't know who needs to hear this. So thank you so much for that. Before we end this live, is there anything you want to plug or anything you got going on?
So yeah, I have been jumping much deeper into the graphic design portion of my life. That was something that I had, explored a little bit a couple of years ago. I've recently been investing in some new equipment, so I'm definitely going to be working more on graphic design. That includes, possibly getting into the publishing business as well as, working on my own clothing line that I wanted to start a couple of years ago. I've invested in some equipment, so I'm going to be, working more into like graphic design as well as like clothing and apparel design. So, check out my Instagram page, Sulfurize, in the near future. I'm definitely going to be, posting some more artwork, whether it be on clothing, whether it be on canvas. And, once I'm able to get things up and running, I'll have prints of those for sale as well.
Wow. You heard it, everybody. You heard. So Ragna, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the replay. Thank you for joining us and listening to this conversation. Very, very needed conversation. I know for me, this was a very reflective conversation indeed. So Ragna, thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
everybody.
thank you
Um,
for having me.
yeah, absolutely, truly an honor and a privilege, and I'm glad you and I spoke and we reached out to each other and just